as for the beings, I mean, what's a being? We're a being just because they come in a different form, maybe. We look at them and some are pleasant to look at, some are not. But then inside, they're exactly the same. Whether when we come back on this earth, we're a flower, an animal, we could be another being on a different planet, which I'm sure many of us have experienced in regressions, then why are we all so different? We're not. The only thing different is the visual and you know, the environment you live in. And they're already together. Many of the beings are together because they're trying to help, because they want our help as well.
Right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks. Well, hello, journeyers. Welcome back. I'm going to say welcome back because I know there are a lot of you that are repeat. I started to say repeat offenders, repeat watchers. I'm not going to be too funny here. Repeat watchers of Higher Journeys. And I want to just say before we get started, I want to thank each and every one of you. We have had, first of all, we got a lot of new subscribers. We've got a lot of new faces and input from the new journeyers, and it's been going quite well. So thank you for helping our channel grow and the conversation grow. Before we get started, again, a couple of things I want to say. With our guest, Fay Vale, I cannot wait till you hear her story. Going to give you a heads up. We're going over to Patreon right after for the after show, right after the main segment, where we'll get into what Faye's going to be talking about over in the after show, but it's going to be a bit unique. So I wanted to give you a heads up at the top of the show so you know we're going over there, and it will fit, of course, nicely with what we are about to discuss today. Fay Vale, my dear, you haven't been on the show for, gosh, I want to say, well, it'll be close to 3 years, right? It was March of 2020. We all know what was happening then, what started then. And I dare say, despite the riskiness of the venue we were on and still are at that time, we got right into what some might consider a bit of a controversial aspect to what started in March. We're going to keep it as clean as we can this time, but we're also going to keep it as honest and transparent as well, because we think it's important to do that. So without further ado, Fay Vale, experiencer, galactic artist. I wanted to get that right. Galactic artist, brilliant woman, and a brave woman, and an enlightened woman. Welcome back to the show, Fay Vale. It's so good to have you here all the way from the UK. How are you?
Yeah, nice to get back on and get back aboard with you, Alexis.
Absolutely. Fay, what can we say? How much has happened since that important month, that important year? Some things have become, I think, more elucidated, more transparent to many people. Some feel that things are continuing to be, they are complex, and who knows what's next. But you've got a bit of a purview from a group of what I like to call non-human intelligence, otherwise known as ET. You channel these beings, of which there, I believe, are many of them she's drawn in her book, and I'm going to put an image up, E.T. as artist. We talked about, I believe, very briefly in our last show, which of course I'll link, how this all came to fruition for you. Actually, you know what? I'm going to correct myself. That's wrong. We did not talk a lot, if at all, about the book, Fay, that you channeled. It was Miguel Mendonça. I'm going to give him a shout out, that I think told your story. But either way, we got the story. I'm not going to go into it. I'm not going to have Fay go into it in exhaustive detail right now, because we have some other things we want to get to. But maybe you can give us a little bit of a snapshot as to when this all happened to you, how it's connected to a 2007 sighting that you had with, I believe, someone else, and what came as a result of it. Maybe a little thumbnail would be helpful for those that may want to hear it here.
Yeah, well, going back to 2007, I lived in Lincolnshire in the UK, which is sort of in the middle of the UK. And I had a paranormal group then, and we used to investigate haunted places. This all came about from my first experience when I was in my 20s, and everything spiritually heightened. But going back to 2007 again, we did monthly sort of previews with other groups, just showing films of what we'd picked up in places, or audio, what people had, voices and things we'd picked up. So we went to the venue, my friend drove, we went to the venue, we exchanged information all night. It was just like a group get-together thing with different groups from different areas. But anyway, because the venue that we was at was actually haunted by a young boy, we was talking to the proprietor for quite a while. So it was 12 o'clock in the evening before we began to venture to go back home. Well, on the way back, it was like country roads. So country roads, I don't know what they're like in the States, but in the UK, they're very narrow, very dark. And usually you'll have to pull over to let somebody come by. So we're traveling along this road, taking in the fact it's 12 o'clock at night, pitch black. And all of a sudden, this big white owl flew straight across the windscreen, made me jump, and settled in the tree at the side of me. And I said to my friend, "Oh," said, "I've never seen a big white owl like that." So she said, "No, it's quite unusual for this area." So that's what started it off. And we're going along the road, and there's a light coming towards us far away. And it was just like a round ball, but really bright. But as it's coming towards us, it's getting bigger and bigger. Well, for a start, we thought it was somebody with the headlights full on because it was a dark road. But as it came towards us, it just got huge, and it got brighter and brighter. But if that's our car, it was coming that fast at us like that. So what happened, it must have got that near. She slammed the brakes on, and we came to a halt because whatever it was, we thought it was going to hit us. And it just went backwards and was gone in a couple of seconds. And I looked at her and I said, "What was that?" She said, "I haven't got a clue." And then after that, my drawing began. So it was quite strange.
Wow. Well, first of all, I don't think I realized that you had an interest in largely the paranormal prior to this happening to you. So it begs the question, and it's a big question, of course, might some of us be drawing these string of anomalous experiences, string of paranormal experiences, including the sighting that you had and what happened subsequently because of your interest? It's a question mark. I don't know, but that's very interesting. What do you think?
Well, if I go back to my first viewing of a craft, but I didn't know what it was at the time because I wasn't into UFOs, anything. I wasn't into spiritual stuff. I had 2 young children, and my husband was dying of cancer. He was only 24. So you can imagine that, like, I never had time to do anything. But after that first experience, in which I'd gone to the door of the house late at night to put a milk bottle on the step so that the milkman could collect it and replenish it in the morning. And there was a humming noise, and I looked up to see where the noise was coming from because we lived opposite a golf course. So in front of me was nothing, and it was pitch black. And there was a large cigar-shaped orange craft as I know it now, but at the time I didn't know what it was. But it was making a humming noise, and it was just like, That's what made me look at it. But as it hummed, it pulsated brighter and duller like that. Well, of course, it scared me to death, so I ran in and shut the door. but I could still hear it humming. So I got up the courage to go and have another look, and I just stood and looking at it, and then closed the door, went to bed. Never even thought about it in the morning. You would think in the morning you'd get up and you'd go, guess what I saw last night? Nothing. But after that, the paranormal side of me, or spiritual or whatever, just opened up, and I would see spirit people in the street. People would just disappear. I could walk in a room and smell tobacco or perfume. So this is what kicked it all off.
Sure.
But it became like a normal thing to me. So that was when I was in my 20s. So going on to in between, I did see some more craft flying about one morning, early morning, but that was in between. And then 2007, this thing happened 2 weeks after the thing on the road came at the car like that. I was out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for paper and pens, or paper and pencil, not knowing why. And I couldn't stop drawing, but it was like a 2-year-old scribble, you know?
Didn't you start with your non-dominant hand? I recall.
Right. Left-handed, and I'm right-handed. But that was a very clever move, because if I used my normal hand, and I did a line in a place that didn't look right, say I was drawing a house or a flower, I'd want to scrub it out because that's not right. Because it was this hand, didn't get that. My brain didn't kick in. It just flowed. It just went. So they had a straight channel where my own logic never even entered it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was so clever how they did it. But after that, I never told anybody for 2 years, not even my husband. I mean,
Stunning.
How can you say to your husband when he walks in the door, oh, what you been doing today, dear? I've been drawing for aliens. I would have been locked up somewhere.
Oh my gosh. You hear from so many people that have whatever their entree is into this world of high strangeness, and just listening to them, imagining them telling a family member or a coworker or a friend, whatever, and they're like, no way, skip it, just don't even bother. So no surprise that you kept it hidden, although a hidden gem, I would dare say. I hope that we can put some pictures up in post when we produce this, of some of Fay's stunning images. They're just really, really incredible. We're going to come back to that, because I know that this has been an evolving process for you. And but I want to really get into how the relationship that you have developed with a variety of non-humans, and how they've played a role in the last 2.5 or so years. I want to quote you, Fay. I had heard you. Fay's kind of doing the circuit now. She's been interviewed by quite a few lovely people. And in one interview I was listening to, Fay, you said something about the human experience that we're going through at this time. Now, this was, I believe, in 2021, but still are going through, is about looking at both the shadow person and the real person, a shadow person and a real person. Do you recall saying that? And if so, what did you mean by that?
Well, I think the shadow person is the person who we're made to believe is our real self. But the real person is the person that's emerging in most people now, as we're opening up to so much more. It's a bit like walking into a house that's empty and not seeing the vision. But then as you start dressing this house up and adding different things to it, it suddenly becomes a home and it becomes a vision. And that's how I look at what's happening today, that there's so many different things coming in. But we're all different, and we're all doing it at different pace and different times. Because so many people are saying, oh, well, you know, they've moved on, they've not. But like we're all individuals, and if you were learning how to drive a car. Some people can do it in a few lessons. Some people have to have a lot. So we're all different times and different paces. So if your shadow person is there longer than your real self, then you still have to be on that level and learn on that level. So you're not ready to, you've walked in your house, you maybe have decorated the walls, but you're not ready to add the rest. Your furnishings and that. I know, I just wanted to say it like that so
that's a
people
fantastic
can see
analogy.
how
Fantastic.
simple it is.
That's a fantastic analogy. I think you've got a gift for that, by the way. And I mean that very seriously, because sometimes people need to see a visual in order to understand something that would be pretty complex. And, as you mentioned shadow, we've used the term looking at the shadow aspect of an individual as some kind of spiritual work. We need to understand the shadow in order to understand the fullness of who we are. Okay, fine. And I agree with that. And I agree with what you're saying as well. But here's my question for you. And again, we're going to kind of keep it as clean as we can and as, nebulous as we can. With what is going on right now, Fay, what your honest feeling about this. It's affected so many people in different ways.
Exactly.
Do you think that there's a faction that is hoping to keep people in their shadow self? It's a bit of a leading question, but do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And to put it as best as I can, of course there is. Of course there is. Because there's lots of traits on the earth that still need to be re-established as good instead of the way they come across. And as this time is evolving and this time is going on, different things are just coming out into the open, and different occurrences are happening to make that come out into the open. And all we have to do is just go with it. Just go with it, because what's the point in fighting it? What's the point in getting really involved in it? Do we really want to fuel those energies? No. The energies we want to fuel is those in here. They're real pure energies that are helping us evolve personally into our real selves. Okay, I get that people worry what's going on in the world. Of course we do. We're living in it. But unless everyone turns around and says, that's it, we're not having it, it's not going to change. But if we concentrate on ourselves and those we love to help and keep going, we're making the change in a different way, because the energy, we're changing the energy around us. So it's up to us. If we want to stay on that level, that's fair enough. Everyone's got choice in their life. And maybe some of those people are not strong enough, or that they really don't want to step. It's like stepping off the diving board. They really don't want to step into that. And I get that, because the fear is so pushed into their very being. And fear is part of one of the human emotions. So we can't just wipe it out, but we can try and make it better.
We are living at a time of great challenge and incredible opportunity. A time when taking life into our own hands, charting our own course, and finding our own answers is more accessible than ever before. During this time, you may be asking yourself, what am I called to do? What if I could discover not only my own inner healing power, but help others all over this planet discover theirs? We all have the ability to heal ourselves, but it takes a special approach, a unique approach. Quantum healing hypnosis technique, also known as QHHT, a method developed by pioneering hypnotherapist and past life regression expert Dolores Cannon, is the approach that thousands have used and taught to access the deeper aspect of the self for healing at the core level. We all have the ability to tap into the higher self, the oversoul, the higher consciousness, and we have the means to help others to do the same. QHHT is designed to help the individual access the subconscious, the storehouse of all information, through visualization at the deepest level imaginable, a process that Dolores Cannon discovered and refined during her decades of working with individuals from around the globe. Training with QHHT will provide the guidance and give you the tools to help others tap that incredible force within. Now, you can access this exclusive training online, bringing the tools needed right to you so you can assist others in finding their own answers and achieve total healing. This is powerful and needed now more than ever. Be a part of the pioneering work and legacy of Dolores Cannon by learning QHHT. Start today by clicking on the link in the description of this show to get started. And when you do, don't forget to mention Higher Journeys to get a 10% course discount when you sign up. It's time we all take back control of our lives and chart the course for success at every level. It's time to discover the power of quantum healing hypnosis technique by helping others to help themselves. And by doing this, we are helping to heal the world. I heard you once talk about how the beings that you have dealt with, and we've heard this before, many of them don't understand. They don't carry emotion and they don't understand emotion, and therefore they don't know fear. They don't understand it because that too is a very powerful emotion. And yet, some of the beings, I want to be careful, guys, because, we always, not all, but some people say the aliens, and I always say, well, which ones? I think that there's a spectrum that we may be interacting with. But the ones that you have dealt with, Fay, when it comes to the fear quotient, the fear factor, have they said anything? Have they dialogued with you about how to handle it, even though they can't quite relate to it?
I did get channeling once where they asked me about fear, and because I didn't understand it, and I wrote back because I can translate and write it back in my own, and I said, well, there's different sorts of fear. There's like fear, say somebody had a gun to your head. There's the fear that we get if we're going for an important interview for a job. It's a different fear, but it's still a fear.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have fear that we induce on ourselves when we go on fairground rides or we do some extreme sports. And so there's so many different sorts of fear because they said if we could overcome fear, the connection would be just like that.
Interesting. So in other words, they understand how it works. They just don't embody it. And
that's right.
I see. That's interesting. Well, so many people now more than ever are talking about the importance, particularly in the consciousness community, of getting over the fear. That's a tough one. And fear, which has been discussed as almost a sustenance, a food source for some of the lower energies to feed off of and to survive even. And so when you look at all that's gone on, frankly, what's been going on for hundreds of years, I think fear and division are, that's a very old playbook, as we know. But now, particularly now, whomever they are, use that fear to keep a sustained behavior, not with everyone. Thank God more people are starting to wake up, but with still too many, as we can see with some people walking around. And so that's a tough nut to crack. And we certainly can't do it in one fell swoop, meaning the entire population. It's not going to be the entire population. So what's your sense about that in terms of, how they say one bad apple spoils the whole bunch, or, if we don't stand tall together, we'll fall together. The collective is important. And I'm sure people struggle with that. Not everyone is going to be able to get rid of the fear. Not everyone is even aware of what's going on. And if we work together as a collective and our survival is dependent on it, then what? And I'm not saying this is the case, but just your thoughts on that. How important is it for the collective to get this?
Well, I just think that, of course, there'll be people who are still in the fear. There'll be there's always going to be that. always. But like I was saying before, we either stand in the fear and let that energy feed us, or we don't. And when you talk about the collective is the people who don't allow those energies in. They don't allow that energy to lives. Okay, because we're on the earth, we've got to accept so much because we haven't got the power as one. We would have the power as a collective, but that's a different thing altogether. To get the whole of the nations to come together would take, I don't know how many years, because all over, hundreds and hundreds of years, it's never happened. So it's not likely to happen now. But people who are waking up, as you say, or feeding their own energies, and when you walk in a room, if somebody's in that energy where it's all doom and gloom, you immediately pick it up.
No question. No question. Yes.
But if we walk in a room and we're like full of joy or full of like, well, okay, let's look at this in a different way and point out the good things in life, you immediately lift the energy in that room. And if as many of us as can do this, do it, then we're actually promoting the change.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more, Faye. This is a wise, wise woman. I'm sure many of you agree. You're talking about some perennial wisdom. You're talking about some science, even in terms of the dominant energy in a given space, like the pendulum that oscillates back and forth. The pendulum that oscillates, that moves the strongest, the weaker one is going to fall into resonance with it.
Of course they do. Of course
absolutely.
You learn a child to ride a little bike and they've got stabilizers on, but you keep encouraging them and they suddenly lose that fear of falling off, and they're off on their own, and you think, wow, and it's so different, and we're all the same. Yeah. We carry that all our lives, and it's all about going forward and not sitting in that stagnant energy.
There's been such a temptation in recent months, particularly. It's been going on forever, but it just seems it's intensified. Political ideologies, social ideologies, the big picture background that's been going on for a couple, soon we'll be saying a few years, that has festered and created what I would say a low level consciousness, the conversations, the fighting. And there are many of you out there in the conscious community, and I really mean conscious community, that don't like that. And yet you find yourself drawn in as try as you might and get triggered. There are some of you out there that have learned exactly what we're talking about, Faye. But if we can take Faye's advice and no matter what somebody comes up into your face and says something that you completely disagree with, no is wrong. If you want to start changing things, I'm not saying let people run all over you, no, but walk away. My mother used to say, pick your battles. Walk away, smile, and say, no matter what, I still love you. You've just sealed it right there. You've just changed the energy. Now, there are going to be some people that aren't going to resonate with that. I say there's one of two things that's going to happen when you're around an individual that wants to trigger you and wants to get you into, draw you in. They're going to do one of two things. They're either going to, if you can keep your energy high, they're going to resonate with you and change their own perspective, or they're going to get the hell out of Dodge. They're going to leave you as fast as they can. I think that's true because you're repelling them. And so you'll know immediately who has a chance. Sad to say, but this is the way it works. So anyway, thank you for that. That's powerful stuff. Don't give in, guys. Love.
You know, when you get people who challenge you about, I've got many friends who are into all the political things, and they get really depressed and down, and it's not good for your soul. It's not good for your health. It's not good for anything. I'm not saying don't ever be aware of what's going on, because we've got to a certain degree, but don't get stuck in that jar with the lid turned tight. Take the lid off and release it,
Yes. I agree 100%, 1,000%. Let's weave the beings back into this and the role that they may or may not be playing in these times. I've asked a few experiencers. By the way, this is, if you don't know, this is part of our Experiencers Speak series. We haven't done one quite like this in a little bit, so I hope you'll check the whole playlist, actually. But
I
Fay
will
is
do.
our latest. Yeah. Experiencers Speak, and we got a heck of an experiencer here with a lot of experience. The role that the beings may be playing now, the beings that you're in touch with, I do believe there's a non-human influence here, even on the not so great side of things. But those that you're in contact with, what can you tell us? What do you feel comfortable telling us about the role that they may be playing and how they're guiding you to guide others?
I don't feel like I'm being guided in that way. I feel like I get tasks to do because things will come in synchronicity, which we all have, and it's like a complete clear message, and suddenly this spark goes off, and you think, "Oh yeah," and then you follow that point. But as for the beings, I mean, what's a being? We're a being just because they come in a different form, maybe. We look at them and some are pleasant to look at, some are not. But then inside, they're exactly the same. Whether when we come back on this earth, we're a flower, an animal, we could be another being on a different planet, which I'm sure many of us have experienced in regressions, then why are we all so different? We're not. The only thing different is the visual and you know, the environment you live in. And they're already together. Many of the beings are together because they're trying to help, because they want our help as well. We're all evolving creatures at the moment. And the
that.
more we go together and help each other, we're actually expanding the universe. You know, we can't let off missiles and stuff and you know, do stuff up there, because we're all the same. We're all in the same. I can't call it a bubble, but we're all in the same. It's not even a group. It's the same sort of being. If I can't think of the right word for it because it's so big, it's a bit like not everybody believes in God, but that power, that belief, can shift mountains. It can get you through the worst episode in your life, that belief. And this is what we're all in, this big ball of belief. And as long as we all believe in each other and we strive for the best things, then we're working, we're getting there, we're doing it. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight, but we keep doing it. And as we pass away, there'll be others. There's light workers, there's the new star children. They're all coming in all the while. And so it's evolving, it's changing. We can't see the change because we expect things to be, oh, wake up next morning, the world's wonderful, everything's changed overnight. It doesn't happen
Doesn't
like
work that way.
that because there's no such time in the universe. There's no such thing as time. Time's man-made. So because we're so indoctrinated that everything's in time, this, that, and the other, we expect things to move quickly, but they don't. Some things do. But you notice the things that move quickly are usually your feelings or how you feel about something. And that can change in a second. You know?
I don't know if this is, I hear you, I hear the voice of Fay, and the wisdom that you are pouring forth right now, Fay, is, it's almost as if you're bringing this through. The messages are coming through you.
I always feel that because I don't rehearse anything.
I know you
when
don't.
I did my first interview, I was so nervous. I wrote all points down. I never used one. And I just go with what's given and say it, because I'm trying to explain it in the simplest way possible so that people just get it.
I want to now read I'm calling it the impromptu message that you brought through. I'm going to, again, link the interview that we did with Fay Vale back in March of 2020, where I clearly put her on the spot. I believe I was one of the first people that interviewed you, and you were nervous, but you did it anyway. God bless you. Bless your heart. You did it anyway. And I'm actually going to put up some visuals, because she was actually writing as she was talking, or, really doing an automatic writing. So I'm going to quote you, and then maybe have you talk a little bit about what's happened since. I think you've kind of touched on some of the themes already that came through in this message, but this is in March of 2020, where the message that came through when you were channeling was the following quote: "All that is happening is to teach you to listen to your own perspective and to honor your souls," meaning what's going on right now, March of 2020. "As you are about to go on a complete turnaround and redeem your true self, everyone who has been affected by the so-called virus is to be attuned to other dimensions. All that is said is of great importance. All that is said is of great importance at this time. Do not be afraid, as all is not as you are led to believe. Always seek the strength that you can tap into, and only listen to the things that affect you personally. Be aware, be vigilant, but don't fall into the foolish assumption that you will not be uplifted." And then you said the overall message: listen to yourself. That's what you said.
Exactly. Well, that still stays. And this is our power. This is our power. This is what's growing. This is what's evolving. This is what's bringing us out of the darkness and into our true being and our true light. And it's exciting. It's exhilarating. And, if we can be part of that, then wow, what more would you want? It's just amazing. I just find it such an exciting time.
It is an exciting time. And I suppose part of that excitement as feeling emotional beings is the anxiety that's associated with it. I mean, think about, you're getting ready to go on stage or do something that's going to get your heart beating a little bit faster, a little bit of anxiety, but along with that is the excitement. People are a bit anxious, and this has been a bumpy road. I pray, God, that it doesn't get too much more bumpy, but who's to say? But it is exciting because I think some of us, maybe many of us, are sensing that we are on the tip of a new world, literally.
Yeah.
It may even appear to be getting worse, when I call it that dichotomy of consciousness, where the sun and the rain are kind of coexisting, and the louder the rain and the thunder is, the more we're actually getting closer to the end of this and a new beginning.
Exactly. No, that's correct. Yeah, wow. Spot on.
Have you been, now you got the lovely book, E.T. as Artist. I can see a little bit. Let me see if I can put you in full view. So, because you've got some art behind you, I don't know if you can, actually, I'm not going to have you tilt anything because we don't want your lighting to be off, but I would love to be able to post in production some pictures, some art that you've done more recently. How has that been going? And again, to reiterate, this is another form of channeling through imagery of the beings and the messages that come from them in the form of art. Talk about that a little bit more.
A lot of the art is about, I mean, I did one yesterday. I should have brought it in, really. And it just says, be in the flow. And it's all about just being in the flow, just letting it happen, just allowing it to come in. Of course, when we go back to the emotions, we all have good days and bad days, but one really good day overrides 3 bad ones. And if we didn't have that level, then how do we learn? It's like black and white. Right. We have to have black to recognize white.
That's right.
So we have to go with everything. It's just the way it is. And you could have the most awful day, and maybe a dear family member or your grandma or somebody will turn up and say, hey, I thought I'd pop round and visit you. And then all of a sudden, your day lights up, you know, or somebody's little dog comes wagging his tail and you give him a stroke and it's full of, you know, and it lights your day up. These are the things that we're aiming for, all these things, these people who get really down. And some people don't have the resistance like others. Like I say, we're all individual, we're all different. But a lot of people have spoke to me and said, oh, you know, I really hate it now, and this, that, and the other about the world and what's going on, and this, that, and the other. And my advice is look for the things that lift your spirit. Look for the things that make you happy. It doesn't have to cost money. Just look for the things that enlighten your heart. If you like doing a bit of sewing, get it out. Do a bit of that. If you want to do reading, art, even if you just want to read a story or tell a story to a child, just do it, because it's all this energy lifting. And this is what we're working with now.
No question.
We're working with lifting our energies and spirits all the while. And my advice is, if you start going down there, then work on it and work to get back up again, because that's what we're aiming for.
I love it. In my last interview, actually last couple of interviews, the conversation has been about the empathic dilemma, if you will, and the influences that are really bombarding so many of us. Sensitives is a sort of new terminology for empathic these days, and how to kind of help that along. And it's tough. It's been a tough road for me. I'm admitting I'm highly sensitive, probably more than I'd like to admit. And this has been really kind of a litmus test for so many of us. And yet, those little things that you're talking about, and we've talked about this, I think, particularly in the consciousness community for years, about doing things that bring a smile to your face, go for a walk, do some grounding, dance around the room, all great advice. But now there's something even more powerful to those little things that we considered, oh, it may be helping a little bit. I actually think our doing that for ourselves is also helping the collective. We are in a bit of a tug of war, it seems, with, you know, those that want to draw you down and keep you in controversy and argument, and the other side, which is determined to swim through this. I really believe that more acts of kindness, obviously, doing things that are kind to yourself, will shift the energetic blueprint. Because there's a tug of war going on right now. There's no question. So those things mean even more now, for sure. What do you do? Well, I know what you do. You draw. What else do you do?
I actually do quite a few talks now, and I've got another one planned for the end of the year. But the talks that I do are to help people to stand up in front of other people and talk about things that have happened to them, the sort of UFO experiences, seeing ghosts, whatever. And this all sparked off from when I first moved to Glastonbury. I didn't know anybody, and I went to an evening talk to get to know the area and people around and what were going on. And it was a medium who was doing the talk, a gentleman who had been a medium all his life. And we went through the talk. I was going out the door at the end, and there was a young girl there, and she didn't look very happy. And as I passed, I happened to tap her on the shoulder, and I said, "You okay?" And she burst into tears, and she said she'd seen spirit people since she was a child, never been able to speak about it, and it scared the hell out of her. Yeah. So she come to this talk to find out. But and I advised her what I thought might help her. But as I walked away, it came in my head, well, how many people have had UFO sightings or things and never been able to talk about it? So what we do now, we have talks, and the room's quite comfortable. There's 60, 70 people there. And they just stand up and they'll say, well, this happened to me. And it's absolutely phenomenal what people. I had a young chap, and he said, I've been able to talk to dolphins since I was a child, and I understand what they're saying back to me. And I thought, well, how many young chaps would stand up, or young fellas, and say that? So it's like, that's my mission at the minute.
I think that's an important one. God bless. Oh, fabulous. So many individuals, and I'm listening to you, and I too, although I'm not necessarily leading a group at this time, it's something that I had thought about. But as many of you know, that I have relocated to the southeast part of the United States, and have met so many wonderful people. And in my travels, casual travels, getting the hair done or whatever the case may be, and one thing leads to another. Well, what do you do? And blah, blah, blah. And next thing you know, they're telling you a story. And
Exactly.
I have seen a couple of people close to tears and in the fact that they were not, until they spoke with me, able to talk about this. So again, Fay, this is why we do Higher Journeys, because we want you to know, I cannot say it enough,
Exactly.
you're not alone. The experience is unique to you, but the fact that you're having them is not. And we've got to start addressing it. So I salute you for the work that you're doing and
The
helping
thing
people.
is, like,
Great.
years and years ago, gay people hid all their lives. And now gay people are okay. Not everybody accepts them. It doesn't make no difference to me. But gay people are more accepted now than whatever they were. And it's because they've spoke out. And I think when you've had an experience that is of the strange kind, shall I say, it takes some guts to stand there and say to somebody, well, this happened to me, because you immediately expect to be laughed at, or people sort of brain pattern gone wrong or something. But the more we allow people to speak about what's happening, the more people will realize that, hey, we're not just this little box on the earth who do this, we're all by this, we do this, we do that. We're far more than that, because where did that come from? And it makes them question, it makes them realize that there's so much more. So the more we can get people to like come out and say, well, this happened to me, it's amazing. It is such, and Alexis, if you did a program on that, it would be amazing.
Well, this is part of what I do to initiate this kind of conversation so they can hear from
Exactly, yeah.
you yourself. But I think anyone that is genuinely personally invested in this idea, and I have said since I started doing this work as a trained journalist, I don't do this for the sake of novelty. I do it because it's necessary, because
Exactly.
of the young woman who broke down in tears because she's been holding this in for so long, for the individuals, and there have been a few that I have heard from, who contemplated taking their lives
No,
because of the
exactly.
torment, not as much from the experience, but the fact that they couldn't talk about the experience.
Yeah.
So this is a very serious thing, and it's a real thing, and it needs to be addressed with love, as always, and until it doesn't become paranormal. On my YouTube channel banner, I have paranormal with capital N. This is a part of our reality. It's part of our reality. Faye, we're going to wind down. I'd like to get some closing thoughts. First of all, do you have a website yet? Do you have a
Yeah,
website?
it's www.galactic-art.co.uk.
Galactic-art.co.uk. We'll make sure to have a link. I thought you did, but like I said, she's come a long way. She is kicking it, crushing it, as they say. I'm so delighted. You are just a joy to this world. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. Thank you on behalf of all of the journeyers and everyone that's having experiences. And can people get in touch with you if are you actively holding these groups? I mean, is it something that people can
Yeah,
join?
yeah. I'm doing them in the UK at the moment, but
Fantastic.
maybe next year it's going to expand. And there's also people in the States who are interested in is going over there and doing it. So watch this space, because it's growing and we want it to, because the more of us that stand up and say, hey, this happened to me. And it's so nice when you've had these experiences and you suddenly find a buddy who's had the same thing and you think, hey, I'm not crazy. It's great.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Well, keep up the good work. Godspeed on that. We will continue staying in dialogue. Anything that we can do to support you, Fay, you know we're here. It's been way too long. We won't let that happen again. So, and now, yeah, you're a love. Fay and I connected immediately when we first met. And again, let's not let it go another 2 years before we come together. In fact, we'll have her back. There's going to be more that she's going to be sharing, but there's going to be more that she's going to be sharing right now, because we're going to go next door. We're going to the Patreon after show. We've had, I'm going to shout out to everyone that's joined. We've had quite a bit, quite a few of you have joined up recently, because we've had some great stuff. We've got over 60 after shows now and other great goodies. Yeah, it's really fun.
Well done, Alexis.
Say that again.
I say well done.
Oh, it's a great community. We have Let's Talk sessions where we kind of get together on Zoom and do just talks like this, which are very important, where I'm not talking, I'm just listening to y'all talk. So think about joining. If you want to just join for a month, we'd love to have you on board as part of the community, but even just for a month, if you want to see a particular after show or just take in as much as you can in a month, whatever. Now we're going to go over there, and Fay, you did a little bit of impromptu channeling for us 2 years ago. I asked Fay before we ran tape on this show, would you be willing? I didn't want to put you on the spot, but she agreed that she is going to do her best to bring through her beings, not her beings, but the beings that she communicates with, to bring us the latest message. So again, we're going over to Patreon right now. We're going to talk about a little bit of what comes out. We don't know what's going to come out, but do join us over there, will you? All right, guys, I'm going to say ta-ta for now. Thanks so much. Fay Vale, thank you so much, as always, for an enlightening conversation. And your wisdom is bar none. Whew. Thank you so much.
Thank you, too, for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to have you. Thank you, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Hopefully, we'll see you next door. But in the meantime, have a great day. Take care. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to watch what's next, plus more to explore. And don't forget to subscribe to Higher Journeys.